Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and this is actually going to be the final News Dose for the year of 2023. Sincerely, thank you all just so much for sharing your year with me. You all continue to be absolutely awesome. I am really excited about today's video, though, because we get to talk about a game revival that I have wanted dead serious for at least 15 years by this point. It's crazy that it's even taken this long in the first place, but a new Banjo-Kazooie might actually be on the table after all. So we will talk about that today. And then we also have some Nintendo news as well. There is a Switch 2 rumor going around right now. I don't really know about this one, but on the other hand, evidence continues to mount up that a soonish Nintendo Direct is maybe incoming. So do make sure to stay tuned for that as well. But let's just go and jump right into the video, starting off with Blade. There's been a lot of interest in this game since it was first announced by Arcane and Xbox earlier this month, and a big part of that discussion has centered around what this game is, what platforms it'll come to, and when it will release. There's just so little known about this game currently, and I'd say that that's for good reason. This game is still far from releasing. According to Jeff Grubb on the Xbox Era podcast, he talked about its internal expectations, and this is what he said. Right now, internally, they are expecting that to be sold on store shelves and digitally in 2027. That is the year that they are aiming for that game. Now, honestly, I don't really think that this should come off as a major surprise. When they announced it, they said right away that it just recently started development, and the only reason that they announced it this early is because they wanted to celebrate Blade's 30th anniversary. Now, I don't personally see that as a problem. I know some people kind of get bothered by early announcements, but I truthfully don't mind, because to me, it's exciting just knowing that an IP that you like is in development at all. You know, if they were to simply confirm that a new Banjo-Kazooie was in development, even if it's years away, I would still be absolutely ecstatic. So if you like Blade, I mean, just be excited that it's in development at all, and you do have something to look forward to here, though just kind of keep in mind that you're gonna need to sit tight. This is still about 4 years away, and for all we know, this could actually end up being a next-generation title when all is said and done. Now, I'll tell you, one fan base that's really been living a good life here in the last few years is the Yakuza community. RGG has been absolutely cooking with new game after new game. I mean, just this year alone, they dropped Like a Dragon Ishin and Like a Dragon Gaiden, both of which are really good games. If that wasn't already enough, though, next month, Infinite Wealth is set to release as the 8th mainline Yakuza entry. What if I told you, though, that they have something else in the pipeline that we might see in 2024? Well, according to the RGG studio director, while talking to Famitsu, he had this to say about his 2024 aspirations. "We are very happy to be able to release Infinite Wealth in 2024. I'm already looking forward to the release, but I hope to be able to make another big announcement sometime in 2024. Please look forward to RGG Studio in 2024. So that does kind of sound like their next big game isn't all that far away. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean whatever he's referring to will release next year, but we could at the bare minimum get our first glimpse at their next project. Maybe it's a 2025 release, and I was kind of thinking about what it could be, and I almost wonder if it's the next Judgment game. If you think about it, Lost Judgment released back in 2021, and that would fit right in line with their development timeline. It seems like about every 4 years they release a brand new game, so Judgment 3 would make sense if it's a 2025 title. More so, the Judgment games has kind of taken a role as the beat-em-up series from this point forward, whereas Like a Dragon has kind of shifted towards turn-based combat. So they both have their place, and both are extremely high quality. I think that they can easily live side by side. I'd actually say that I like the Judgment series just as much as Yakuza. So, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens with all this, but for you Yakuza fans out there, you will continue to live the dream. That's really kind of the thing, though, isn't it? As much as I enjoy the Yakuza series, I can't help but look at a series like that, a series that gets so many games, and I wish that would rub off on some of my all-time favorite franchises like Banjo-Kazooie. Us Banjo fans, we haven't gotten a new game in 15 long years, and even then, it wasn't the game that we were, necessarily hoping for. Now, Nuts and Bolts, I think, was a fine game for what it was. I do think that it's a solid game, just like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, as an example. There are some similarities between the two. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But it wasn't the Banjo 3 that we were hoping for. So, in a way, you can make an argument that us Banjo fans have been waiting in the shadows since the year of 2000. That's honestly crazy to think about. It's probably one of the most baffling gaps in gaming history. But is it finally time for a new Banjo-Kazooie? Well, according to the insider Nate Drake, aka Nate the Hate, it very well might be because, according to him, he said the rumored Banjo game that we previously heard about remains an active project, but the project was only greenlit early last year. Much has to be done, and development can change a ton, ideas abandoned, internal reboots, etc. Now, Nate is a pretty well-known insider. He's gotten a lot of things correct in the past, and that's why people are latching onto this specific rumor. In fact, this is actually about the second or third time that he's brought up this rumor, because last year he brought it up on his podcast. Back then, he mentioned that he kept hearing about Banjo-Kazooie from different people and that something is happening with the Banjo franchise behind the scenes. He then later on clarified on Twitter that it was greenlit. So this is him more or less reconfirming what he's heard, that a new Banjo game was greenlit early last year. However, it's not lost on me that I do understand that this is only a rumor for the time being, and I do completely understand that Banjo fans have been burned time and time again. So Banjo fans do always have to kind of remain skeptical until actually proven true. But there is a little bit more to this story that might actually add some extra weight to this rumor. The timing of all this is actually very interesting because earlier this month, Phil Spencer, the ex-boss himself, had some rather curious things to say about Banjo-Kazooie. Check this out. This is what he said. You've seen from our history that we haven't touched every franchise that people would love us to touch. Banjo fans, I hear you. But it is true that when we find the right team and the right opportunity, I love going back to revisit stories and characters that we've seen previously. And then in this exact same interview, he went on to say, I want our fans and customers to know that I don't bring up games just to tease to no end. If people have watched how we've teased things in the past, there's usually some kind of reconciliation of those hints later on. I'm not one to try and lead people on. It might not happen on the timeline that people would love, but usually when I tease, there's something there. So when you combine that statement with the recent rumors that a new Banjo-Kazooie was greenlit, I don't know, maybe there is actually something here. Maybe a new Banjo-Kazooie is finally in development. And if it is, there are still some pretty big questions. I think most importantly, is this going to be a remake of the first two games, kind of similar to the Crash and Spyro treatment, or will it instead be a brand new entry? I do think in some ways, remaking the first two games makes a lot of sense. Not only would that be the safe direction for them to take, but obviously Spyro and Crash, they had a lot of success, and it's actually baffling that Xbox hasn't already given Banjo the same treatment. I mean, we've had lesser-known games out there get remade before Banjo. It's just this whole weird situation. Now, maybe they didn't have the right studio to make it happen. That could be possible, but that does take us to the next big question. If this rumor is actually legitimate, who's developing it? Is it Rare, or did they instead license it out to a completely different studio? Now, a couple that kind of comes to mind here is Toys for Bob, considering their work on Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, and then you have Playtonic, the group behind Yooka-Laylee, which is a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, but that really just kind of depends on what they have planned next. Toys for Bob, they weren't owned by Xbox when Banjo was greenlit, according to this rumor. So could they have worked out a plan before the acquisition was complete? Maybe. So, yeah, the studio is definitely a big mystery. It'll be very interesting to see who they would have picked if this rumor is true. But if anything else, I think that this is actually about the most promising rumor that we've seen for Banjo-Kazooie. The fact that Phil Spencer specifically name-dropped Banjo is a good sign, and Nate the Hate, he does have a good reputation, so I don't know. It might actually finally be time, and, whether it's a remake or a brand new entry, either way, I'll be super excited. Like I said earlier, personally, I'm okay with early announcements, and if they simply confirm this game with a logo and nothing more, That's really all I need. I'll be super excited. But let me know what you all think about all this. Would you rather a remake of the first two games or a brand new entry? And also, let me hear some studios that you think would fit a project like this. Okay, now we do also have some Nintendo news, the first of which I think might be a little bit sketchy. We'll talk about it just because it's being passed around so much, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts on it. And then we'll move on over to something that I think is a good sign for an incoming Nintendo Direct. So first here is a Switch 2 rumor, and this is coming from Hot Girl Videos 69. Apparently this account has gotten some things correct in the past, so you can kind of take this as you will. Nonetheless, though, this person posted this on Twitter, which reads, Nintendo rumor, next-gen Nintendo Switch console at one point in its development utilized a cartridge slot on dock only, with handheld mode being entirely digital. Mobile device controller support built into dock. Backbone-style Joy-Con attachment devved and abandoned. So more or less what this is trying to say is that these were things that Nintendo was considering at one point or another. And I will say that with all the back and forth rumors that the Switch 2 may or may not have physical backwards compatibility, this in a way does kind of line up with those rumors. But, even with all that, I do remain very optimistic that the Switch 2 will have backwards compatibility. I mean, if you just look at Nintendo's history, they've mostly done a good job at tying two generations together with backwards compatibility. You had Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance, and even to the DS. Then you had the DS to the 3DS, and the Wii to the Wii U. So I just think Nintendo will figure this out, and they do have a pretty good reason to do so, because that gives them an opportunity to sell their very popular Switch games for years and years to come. And as we all know, Nintendo games have great legs. Just like at Mario Kart 8, which continues to sell forever. So I'm really not worried about any kind of backwards compatibility unless I hear something official from Nintendo themselves. Moving on though, this person continued to say that it's believed information on current next-gen Nintendo dev kits likely will leak before Valentine's Day, supporting information from previous Bloomberg report, plus rumor that Nintendo had worked on and perhaps now has a first-party cloud gaming service. A rumor about Nintendo Cloud Gaming Service, originally utilized as a cloud gaming service developed by a Korean company, white-labeled for use by Nintendo. So, Switch 2 rumors have kind of slowed down here recently, but if this person is correct in what they're saying, we should start to hear more leaks before February 14th. I don't really find that overly shocking, and truthfully, you could pass this off as a leak and it actually just be a guess. I was expecting Nintendo leaks in the next month or so anyways. But as for cloud gaming, that's the one curveball here, but I think it does make sense. We've already seen Nintendo dabble with cloud-supported games on their storefront, and most game companies have invested in cloud gaming in some shape or form. PlayStation has, Xbox has, Tencent, Ubisoft, Nvidia, etc., etc. So I think that it would be smart for Nintendo to invest in cloud gaming in some shape or form. If it does ever take off, then it's best to be prepared rather than having to play catch-up. But yeah, I think the more interesting Nintendo news here is something that has a little bit more evidence backing it up, and that's a new Nintendo Direct. Now, fans have come to expect a Nintendo Direct early every single year. Typically, they do drop a showcase right around February, and we've already got a few signs that that will happen once again. Just earlier this week, Luigi's Mansion 2 got an ESRB rating, which, as I'm sure a lot of you all know, that oftentimes indicates an announcement is incoming. But okay, that's just one game, so who knows? But then today, another Nintendo rating dropped online, though this time for Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Now, both of these games have yet to get an official release date, so again, with both of them suddenly rated right around the same time that we usually get a new Nintendo Direct, if you kind of put two and two together here, yeah, a Nintendo Direct announcement might be coming rather soon. I'm still thinking that it'll be in February, but who knows? Maybe we get an announcement in January. It is going to be a different year for them, considering they more than likely will have a console releasing next year, so who knows? They might change things around just a little bit. I guess we'll see soon enough, though, but I think Nintendo fans do have a lot to look forward to next year in 2024. Anyways, though, that is it for this video. The final news dose for 2023 is over. Again, thank you all so much for sharing your year with me, and I guess I'll see you next year. Peace out.